Hey, this is Jeffrey Stewey with Master Coach University, and this is your kind of mini unboxing video of the Coaching Diagnosis Playbook Bundle system. Call it what you want, but I'm going to take you through what do you get in here, how do you get it, what does it look like when you actually get this little bundle that we put together. So first things first, just want to give you a really brief rundown on what this looks like. Obviously, that's what the playbook looks like. And this is all about diagnosis, understanding your client, what makes them tick, what runs the show for them, what is causing them to not get what they want, and then what do they want and why do they want it? Really getting deep around that. So the primary three things that are in this bundle, and there's more than this, but this is just the overview, is the playbook, and then you get a super mini cheat sheet that you can use during sessions, kind of navigate your way through the diagnosis process without having to read what everything is again, as in the playbook. So the cheat sheet is meant to be Cliff's Notes that give you just the key menu of questions for different aspects and different parts of the diagnosis process. And then finally, the AI support tools, which is super exciting, and I'll get into the details of what that means. But the bottom line is you'll be able to use ChatGPT to support you in learning, mastering, and then ultimately even using this live with clients with these three different tools. So once again, we'll get into that in more detail in a second. I'm not going to go through all of the details. Feel free to read this if you feel like it. This is the playbook, and this is the cheat sheet that really you can utilize. I mean, I would just print this out, put it on my wall, and keep it in front of me during sessions in some way, shape, or form so I can have access to and utilize these questions, get them into my ultimately long-term memory and my unconscious kind of knee-jerk coaching process so that those questions just come through me without even having to think that much about them. But before that happens, we consciously make ourselves use this stuff. And the easiest way to do that is keep them in front of you so that the eye draws to various questions, and you can customize this. We have a Google Doc version of it. You can highlight various questions, etc., that your go-to. Once you've experienced the tools and the questions and the frameworks we're talking about here as the coach, of course, it's great to be the client too, then it just becomes just a secondary unconscious, it's like intuitive for you. So that's really what those two primary tools are purposed for. The first one is the super detailed 70-page entire playbook that really takes you through from soup to nuts, and I'll give you a little overview of what that looks like too. Obviously, and anywhere where it says get it now, just click that button. It'll take you to the shopping cart, order form, whatever you want to call it. Here's the bonuses. You get 5 of these, and the first 3 are the different AI tools. There's one unannounced bonus, and I'll mention that as we go through everything that's included. I didn't put it on the promotional page, but it's in there. Coach's Diagnosis Tutor. This is meant to be an AI, a GPT chatbot that just talks to you through your learning journey. It is fed with everything from the playbook, all the frameworks, questions, standards, methods, etc. And it's also been instructed as to how to support you specifically as a tutor, a mentor, and a teacher. So as you're reading the playbook, what I'd encourage you to do, since we're not in a cohort here and we're not all paired up with fellow coaches, is to get with your Coach Diagnosis Tutor and talk to it about what you learned. Say, hey, this is what I think I understand about this, and here's what I'm not clear on yet, or here's what else I'm wondering about it. And you can actually get ahead of what you're reading in the playbook just by thinking out loud with this tutor, and it'll talk you through stuff. I do highly recommend using these on voice modes for those that are kind of verbal processors, as many of our clients are. But you can, of course, do this via touch typing as well, however you interface with your OpenAI ChatGPT account. So that's what this is for. Next, and this is the one I'm probably most excited about, at least for the moment, and I'll tell you why, is the simulator, the coaching simulator. This is your own batch of AI clients that will basically, they're going to role play with you as a client, and then you're going to take them through the diagnosis process, right? You're going to use the skills you're learning in the playbook, etc., or your own skills for that matter. It's fine. Whatever you do, it'll improvise with you. It knows how to handle the languaging of this discussion because I prompted it accordingly to really be a great client for you. So it's going to act as a client. And then at the end of the diagnosis portion of the coaching session, you just prompt it, say, hey, I'm done with my diagnosis. I'm done with the session. Give me feedback. Just tell it to give you feedback. And it's going to turn the tables and it becomes your mentor. And it's going to share with you what you did great, what really was smooth and went well, what was really valuable, what worked that you already did. After that, it's also going to talk to you about what you could do even better, how you might up-level what you did originally, what you might add to it, what might have been missing, and what didn't work that well. So it's going to really give you some constructive feedback and also some reinforcement for what was already great. And you could do this as many times, for basically as long as you can stay awake and keep your ChatGPT account in good order, well, they'll let you use voice mode for however many hours that is. You can go on with basically infinite variations on your client. Tell it what kind of client you want to work with. Tell it what niche you're working in. Tell it what age, gender, religion, whatever. Or just roll the dice if you really want to challenge yourself and say, hey, look, I want you to come up with a random client. You'll have basically infinite types of clients that you can work with within the frameworks, at least. We're talking about pattern recognition here, and that is what this is going to simulate, and that's what the playbook focuses on. All right, third and final AI tool here. Actually, there's a fourth we'll talk about that's unmentioned, but the third and officially final one is the Copilot, and you'll use this tool live during sessions. I suggest you obviously use it in a chat interface because you could just operate as if you're taking notes, type your notes in, what your client wants, what their challenge is, etc. And then this Copilot will give you a more brief, more focused, more tailored menu of frameworks, questions, or next steps to continue that diagnosis process. Now, this is not about telling you how to coach your clients, telling you what you might explore in order to uncover what hasn't yet been uncovered, to reveal what the diagnosis process ideally reveals, right? And so as you reveal more, you type that into your notes in the chat window, and it's going to give you next steps to go even deeper. Eventually, once you've read the playbook and you practice this enough, you're just going to intuitively know the things to do. But this gives you a paint by numbers and individualized and tailored support co-coach, so to speak, a co-pilot, to move you in that direction literally when you're live coaching. So you can learn this with the Diagnosis Tutor. You can practice it with the simulator, role play it, so to speak, and get feedback and up level. And then you can get in the driver's seat and have a co-pilot along the way, helping you to navigate the process of you supporting your client with breakthroughs. When you do this, when you learn about it, and then you talk about it, and then you practice it, and then you do it for real with real people, and you experience better and better breakthroughs, better and better transformation, better and better diagnostics for at least these aspects and these frameworks that guide you in understanding your client, what they want, and what prevents them from getting it. Well, you're going to create a map in your supercomputer that makes it so, hey, you're not going to need the paint by numbers anymore. You're not going to need the Cliff Notes anymore. You're not going to need an AI supporting you anymore. The tremendous intelligence available in these language models, etc., and that's fantastic when needed. But your brain, your facilitation, your intuition, your spirit, your soul, that's the ultimate supercomputer. And nobody's been able to build that quite yet, at least in real time. So the point of this is to really learn and master this stuff so you are the ultimate intelligence that can seek and find what is at the source of transforming and causing breakthroughs for your client. And then your client, they partner with you on that. And the rest is going to be history. So that is the point of these AI tools, to just support you in that as a crutch until you're ready to walk, run, and fly. All right, and then final bonuses, bonus number 4. It's the 120 Powerful Coaching Questions training. This is an almost 1-hour training that goes through all the other questions that you could possibly ever really want, or at least the categories of them and many examples and variations on them that bring you through the entirety of the coaching process. Not just diagnosis, but obviously any and all of these questions could be used inside the diagnosis process, but they're not necessarily explicitly crafted for that. And then finally, as an adjunct to that, bonus number 5 is this ultimate coaching question Google Doc that you'll have access to. And the Google Doc is all the questions that are discussed in this training in a Google Doc. Now, this is not super short. I think it's like 20 pages. I'll show it to you in a second. But it's categorized, it's menu-driven, so you can kind of float your way through to various aspects of it. And what's great about Google Docs is you copy it, you tailor it, you customize it to your favorite questions. Because some of these categories, you might be like, I don't ever want to use that category of questions. So those are the 5 bonuses. I'm not going to go through the FAQs here. A lot of different FAQs that cover typical questions around what's the deal with the bundle and what do I need in order to take advantage of this, etc. So I won't go through that now. But this, I'll tell you, bottom line, this bundle is made for any level of coach. You could be starting from scratch, like you don't even know what coaching is. Any niche that you might work with. You can be an intermediate, advanced, or master coach as well. You're going to find questions, find frameworks, and find tools as well that are gonna make a difference. It's going to support you in a different angle on something that maybe you're already an expert in, but you're going to plus it up. What I notice about studying and leveraging these kind of explorations, even if I already know this stuff, I created this playbook, but I'll tell you, as I did, and I really organized everything that I already officially knew, it made my diagnosis process better in the coming weeks after I was working through all of the material, because I got to re-access it, I refreshed myself, and I deepened those intuitive aspects of my subconscious and brought them back up into my conscious mind, and they became fresh again. I started using them in new ways than I had ever had before in the following weeks of coaching. So this kind of exploration, even if you've mastered everything that we cover in here, you're still going to get better just as a result of leveraging all these different tools and support items, because your mind is on it, and wherever your focus goes, that's where energy flows. That's where you optimize things. That's where your spiritual, emotional, and intellectual energy starts to map things out in an even more firm, strong, constructive, and multidimensional way. That's power in coaching. So what does it look like when you actually purchase it? Now, obviously, this link just takes you to our order form. It's very fancy. But once you fill it out, then you'll get to this page. And this is where you just click to download the playbook. And then the bonuses are right here. Click to download the PDF of the cheat sheet, and here's the cheat sheet Google Doc. This is the unannounced bonus, the diagnosis notebook. I'm going to go through that in just a second. I'll come back to it just because we're going top to bottom here on an overview. Each one of the GPTs, there's a direct link to them. And then also the other bonuses going beyond diagnosis to these questions as well. And there's some other next steps that you may want to take at the bottom here that's not officially included with this bundle that are good next steps, but nowhere near required in order to get what's promised here in the playbook system and bundle. This is what the playbook looks like. It's full color. Everything that is like the scripting for questions, the things that you would say, it's all in red. So anytime there is a menu of questions that you want to leverage, they're going to be in red, right? Within the outline. Also, even in like the examples, like I think this is, here's an example. You'll see anything that the coach said is going to be in red. It draws the eye very naturally to what you'd be saying. There's not too much diagramming here because this is a very, very simple linear process. It can become multidimensional over time once you've really onboarded the basic paint by numbers, but it's really a 4-step process, really 3 steps in the diagnosis process itself. There's a process of asking the initiating questions, process of clarification, and clarification happens multiple times, but the first iteration of that, and then finally deepening into mindsets, beliefs, rules, values, etc. And I give you those frameworks for beliefs, values, and rules within this 70-page playbook as well. You're also going to see a decent amount of tables. Some of these are example tables, and there are also going to be tables that just cover go-to takeaways. And so some of these tables, you may literally just want to print them out, put them on your wall, or blow them up so that you can leverage a table or customize it to your own approach for what that table explains as well. So as you can see, lots of examples, lots of frameworks, and then also lots of bulleted questions that convey tons of examples and variations on the framework, on the theme, on the approach that's being discussed right there. And we really don't leave any stone unturned. We even have sections of this playbook, I'll go back to the top if I can get there, that just cover just introduction and definitions. Like we define beliefs, we define diagnosis, we discuss questions. Like it really is, we're giving you what everything is first, then a little introduction on how to use it. Like what's the overall approach? This is that 4-step process I talked to you about. And then, and only then, do we dive deep into each of the steps in the process, the 2 master questions, clarifying questions, belief and rule elicitation, values elicitation, etc. You can go deep on any of these. You can stay on the surface level and work with the GPTs on learning it more deeply, because what's nice about this, if you don't want to read this, you really don't have to, because all of this has been uploaded into our AI resources. So you can talk to the book, right? You don't have to read it. You can just learn as you go. I would probably suggest, if you want to do it like the quick way, I'd probably read the first maybe about 10 to 12 pages, or read all the way through the 2 master questions. And then just go talk to your tutor about what you've learned and how you'd use those questions and what's next, and explore some of these other factors with your tutor. And then that might inspire you to come back to a section and read it, but you certainly don't have to. This can be used as a reference volume, but it is 70 pages, which is, by the way, why we put together the cheat sheet. It's just a basic overview. So we cover these steps, again, just with simplicity and bulleted questions, a little bit different formatting here. But bottom line is, basically every question, not the examples, but every major question that's covered in the playbook is in this 11 pages. And again, you'll have access to a Google Doc of this. So here's the Google Doc. And this is, again, very menu driven, so you can skip to steps just by clicking this outline over here on the Google Doc. But this Google Doc is just a cleaned up, I think it's even more brief, I think it's like 10 pages form of all the questions that are covered in the playbook. And once again, you can make a copy of this and tailor it to exactly what do you want. You can get this down to 1 or 2 pages then, or blow it up and make it really big and print it out and put it on your wall, as I like to do with anything that I want to be triggered to utilize in my coaching process throughout a coaching day. All right, so that is the cheat sheet and the cheat sheet Google Doc. Now we're on to these AI tools. So we're actually going to start, this is a tool called NotebookLM, and NotebookLM is created by Google. You can access it online on a browser. You can also download an app. They have a NotebookLM app now as well. So the notebook that I've created for you is available. You can access it from anywhere within the app or on a browser window. And then I've also put together a mind map, an audio and a video overview from NotebookLM. And this is another great way to learn above and beyond just reading. So here's the notebook. And just to give you a little tour of the notebook, basically this chat window gives you access to the 2 main resources, the playbook and the cheat sheet. You can just talk to this chat bot resource. I can say, what are the best variations on the 2nd master question? What prevents? And in a couple seconds, it's going to tell me what the best variations, in its opinion, based upon the source material. What do you believe is in your way? What patterns have held you back in the past? What's cool about this, you can click these and it will take you to where exactly it'll reference the resource, just like you're Googling this resource. It just gives you an overview. You could even use this during a coaching session, I suppose, but it's not created for that. Beyond that, I'll share with you the podcast and the video overview in a second. Another really cool thing, and this might be a good tool to use during coaching sessions as well, is that we even have a mind map that this notebook allows, and it allows you to look through the resources. And so I'll just get into the steps for diagnosis here, and you just open that up. and every single step is explicated inside of the mind map. So let's say I've asked my master questions and I want to clarify. Great. I want to go to my clarifying questions. And you know what? I want to use those meta model questions. Let's see what they are. Okay, abstract. Yeah, my client's being really abstract. Let me take a look at that. Okay. And I want to clarify. They're being abstract about what's getting in their way. So, what specifically? Oh, who specifically? What, so it's breaking down the abstraction questions for that master question. Generalizations, great. Always, ever, and everyone. Those of you that know meta model know these very well, right? But the bottom line is you can break this down into the varying frameworks. The frameworks are literally outlined here in the mind map. And hey, it's time for me to reflect back. Great, let me take a look. Preambles, let me just go into verification, tell me where I'm off base. That looks great. And when you click that, it'll take you back to the resource. Or I guess it just brings up the chat, and then it's another way to talk to that resource. Make sense? So that is a really cool aspect. And any of these aspects of the mind map itself, I guess I can zoom in and out on this, which is kind of cool. Let's say I really want to keep my head in, let's get out of clarify and go into orchestrating mindsets. And I'm going to get into beliefs and rules, and specifically belief diagnosis. Yeah, great. And we'll do surface versus core. Okay, great. All right, so I want to really focus on this part of the mind map right now. I can take just this section of the mind map, and I can download it. And it'll give me a screenshot, basically. And you could screenshot this, obviously, as well. But there you go. Now I've got a screenshot. I could print this out. I can keep this in front of me on my desktop that has this portion of the mind map available to me, because that's what I'm really want to hammer in right now. So I love that mind map tool. Just very, very helpful. Anyway, there's your NotebookLM. And again, this is available on all devices. There's apps for it, or like I have here in the browser. They keep upgrading this also, and they've just added some really cool tools that I'm about to share with you because we were utilizing those tools. We put together a podcast of the NotebookLM overview. It's about 20 minutes, and it goes through the steps. It discusses diagnosis in kind of a user-friendly podcast format. So I'll just give you a little excerpt of that here.
Have you ever found yourself, trying to achieve something or maybe understand a roadblock that just keeps popping up in your life?
Oh, definitely.
And the answers you get, or the ones you tell yourself, they just feel, a bit shallow.
Yeah, like you're just scratching the surface.
Exactly. Skimming, not really cutting through the noise to figure out what's really going on underneath.
It's such a common thing. We tend to jump at symptoms, don't we? We see this surface issue and immediately think, okay, how do I fix that?
Right.
But we don't always stop to ask, wait, what's actually causing this symptom? It's like trying to prescribe medicine without knowing the illness. You might get lucky, but probably not.
That's a great analogy. And that's precisely why today we're diving deep into the power of diagnosis. It sounds maybe a bit clinical, but it's really just that essential first step for any kind of real lasting change, whether it's personal goals, work challenges, you name it.
It's about developing a kind of almost like...
So they really drill pretty deeply. I mean, it's 20 minutes long. You get the idea. It's a little bit of an introductory piece. I'll go a little bit further in.
Refined understanding. Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, what you really want is X. And the thing really stopping you seems to be Y. Mm-hmm. And then you explicitly ask for confirmation or correction.
All right, they're going through validation, verification right there. So as you can see, these guys, they're just very friendly, easy to listen to. You can download this. It's just an MP3 or MP4, whatever it is nowadays. You can also check it out on the NotebookLM piece there. I mean, it's right here in the sidebar. You can play it there, and you can potentially go into interactive mode and talk to these podcasters as they're going through it. But neither here nor there. What's important is you got access to this. So download it on a device or play it on the app, and you can listen to this 20-minute podcast. And if NotebookLM works right, you should be able to actually interact with these podcasters, discussing the things that they bring up or asking them to speak to another aspect of it. So instead of just typing in with Notebook, you're actually talking to these great podcasters about what you are learning within the playbook as well. And then finally, a little extra that NotebookLM gave us is a video overview. And don't ask me why they gave me a skeleton. Maybe that's because it's supposed to be an X-ray. It's kind of creepy, but I'll leave it to them. I'll get over it. But anyway, here's a little bit of an excerpt of the video overview, which is quite a bit different than the audio overview as well.
Hey, welcome. So if you're someone who coaches or mentors people and you're looking to create those real, genuine, life-changing breakthroughs, you're in the right place. Today, we are going to break down the skills that take a conversation from just good to something that truly changes a life.
I mean, let's be real for a second. Haven't you ever left a coaching session feeling all pumped up, but then a week goes by and nothing's really different? It happens all the time. You get these pep talks, these one-size-fits-all bits of advice, a lot of "you got this," which feels great in the moment, but it doesn't actually move the needle. So, what's the secret? Well, it's not about having better advice or more solutions up your sleeve. Nope. It's about changing your entire approach. And it all starts by avoiding one really, really common trap. Okay, here it is. The single biggest trap for any coach, any mentor, any leader is jumping in to solve a problem before you actually understand what the problem is.
Okay, so you get the gist of the overview. And again, it has these nice little chapters, talks through getting clarity from diagnosis, the master questions, basically everything that we cover in the playbook. 8-minute video overview. And I think they do a pretty good job of at least introducing you to these concepts prior to reading if you just want to go through this media first. A little bit more in the middle.
It's a core fear, a fear of actually trying and failing, a fear of proving to themselves that they're not good enough. That's the real problem. It was never about the clock.
So how do you actually peel back those layers? You do it with a specific set of tools.
That gives you some idea of what that looks like. Let's move on to the GPT tools. So the first one, as we already talked about right here, Diagnosis Tutor. And so here's your Diagnosis Tutor. Once again, this is pretty straightforward. I can talk to it about anything in the entirety of the playbook. So let's say I'm confused about why values prevent a client from getting what they want. Aren't values what the client wants anyway? How would what the client wants prevent them from getting what they want? All right, I'll be interested to see how it answers this. But again, this is my tutor, so it should have a pretty decent answer here. Okay, so yeah, values aren't purely what the client wants. Values are what's most important. And then two values can pull in opposite directions. They function as a block. Makes sense. Values have a hierarchy. Value conflicts, that's what it mentioned above. Anything that prevents a client from getting their desired outcome. Values themselves don't turn evil or block the client, but a competing higher priority value can lead them to consistently make choices that undermine the thing they say they want. Yeah, it's a pretty good answer. I think there's even more in the playbook, but it's certainly a beginning to it. And then it prompts you to, hey, do you want those values conflict questions, which is absolutely an aspect of how values might prevent somebody. This can be your tutor. And again, on voice mode, it's really great to just be able to just spitball if you process verbally, especially because you can just hear them discuss the specific points around what you're learning or using within this basically just an educational one-on-one conversation. All right, moving on to the next AI tool, we're on to the simulator. Now, I'm not going to actually demonstrate this here because I have another video where I actually go live in voice mode demonstrating the diagnosis simulator and how it works. I've already gone through this in the past and I was blown away. I was like, wow, that sounded basically like a real client. And it went with me along the journey of diagnosing and going deeper and deeper. And I learned as I went, really, in the conversation. And then the feedback was really great, too. Like, there was some super deep feedback on other ideas. And I thought I did an amazing diagnosis process. I mean, gosh knows, I know my own framework, right? And it gave me some keys to how I could deepen even more and create better multidimensional discussions within the diagnosis that I had already successfully done as well. So there's feedback, I think, for every level of coach within not just like the playbook, but how the role play and mentor can debrief through what you did Not to mention that, we might know the feedback. We might know that, yeah, that's a good idea. I know that. But if you didn't do it in the diagnosis process, it might be a good reminder for things that but you're not using, or you didn't use it maybe when it could have been used, right? And so once again, we hone that intuitive process of exploration, uncovering, unconcealing, and diagnosing throughout the coaching process. And we start, even if we're not comfortable with or wanting to use these frameworks with live clients as as a guinea pig, we've got our diagnosis role play for that. And then it becomes second nature. And then it's going to naturally flow through you within live sessions. All right. And then finally, we've got the Copilot. And so this is the Copilot offering real-time support during your live coaching sessions. And so again, literally, if I'm in a session and my client wants, I'm just going to take notes. I'm going to imagine I'm asking them, hey, what do you want? And they say $1 million and a big car. All right. And then I'll just put that in, just like I'm taking notes. Okay, great. We're going to clarify relentlessly what prevents. So what would having that mean for you? How specifically would you know you've achieved that goal? So it's giving me some clarifying questions, potentially. Maybe I'll ask what's important about owning the $1 million. My client says that the money will buy the car and that money is everything in life. It gives you status and access to whatever you want. Okay? Juicy belief. Money is everything in life. Now, we've already uncovered a belief there. All right, great. So now, let's say I also asked what prevented him from getting the money, and he said that the government taxes him too much to save that amount. Okay, so we've got the want, we've got what prevents, and it already identified the prevent is a surface level external circumstance, because again, we talk about in the playbook. So we're gonna drill down past taxes. That's what I would have done. What do you believe about your ability to make money despite taxes? He says that he can't make more money than he already does because there's not enough hours in the day. Yeah, and now they're giving me a menu of how I might challenge the limitation, drill down on beliefs. What would it mean to you if you could make the same amount of time? If time wasn't the issue, what would stop you then? These are all go-to questions that are within the playbook. But again, in a very short window, our Copilot is presenting us with some specific options that we can just pull out. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how this would work while you're in a coaching session. This would be a crutch that you can use that ultimately will become intuitive for you over time. And then maybe you just have this as a tab opening in case of emergency. You could take notes throughout the first 10, 20 minutes of a session, copy those notes, paste them all in there, and that gives this Copilot even that much more information through which to generate a menu of what might be next at that point in the process. So please give me feedback if you get it and you're using it as to what's working, what could be improved, what's not working, how you'd like us to make it better for you to really nail it as far as the support that's provided here. Beyond that, this is the coaching questions training that you'll have access to. It is about 45 minutes long, and we go through just a ton of different categories of questions and plenty of illustrations, diagrams, and discussions around how this could be used within the realm of a coaching session as well. So I'm not going to play excerpts of this one because it's pretty lengthy and you just got to experience the whole thing. It's a pretty comprehensive training there. And then finally, the Ultimate Coaching Question Google Doc. You just click here to download it, and then this is the Google Doc itself. It's very lengthy. It's a little over, I think it's about 15 pages, 11, 12 pages, something like that. And it's nothing but questions. Again, it's menu driven. So you can just have your go-to questions here because all these headings turn into an outline in the sidebar here. And you can say, look, I want to go down to hypnotic questions, and here are my hypnotic questions. And you can utilize those or go back to the training and learn how to use these such that you can leverage these in a session. And a lot of these questions are not diagnostically apportioned. They are for transformation, especially the hypnotic ones, but there's many others as well. So these are all broken up, and you even have links to different parts of the video training here that you just click through, and it takes you to that part of the training where you can watch the video as well for that particular area of questioning. That is the Ultimate Coaching Question Google Doc. And like I said, that also is something that you can make a copy of, and you can pare it down to your go-to questions as well. So that's really everything that's within the bundle. I don't know, it depends on when you see this as to how much it's going to be. We're running a promotional, they call it a flash sale right now, so it's extremely inexpensive. But bottom line is, at whatever I'm asking for, I can promise you this is going to give you some great tools that you can sink your teeth into and up-level your coaching from wherever you're starting. And like I said, even if you're starting from scratch, this is the basis for especially inner game coaching. For anybody starting from scratch, this would be what I would teach them right up front, that they should know, and they should be able to facilitate with a client to really properly diagnose such that they have an accurate representation of what makes that client tick, what they want, what's getting in their way. And usually by the time you get that level of detail, the solutions, the breakthroughs, the transformational process, the coaching that's needed that you're going to take your client through, it's usually pretty obvious at that point. And then your method for transformation, breakthroughs, coaching, etc., can then be utilized how you think it's best or how you co-create with your client, because they know what needs to change. And as we know as good coaches, sometimes just the awareness of what's been uncovered itself is enough to create the breakthrough, to create the transformation. Once you know your limiting belief was, I don't have time, or I'm not good enough, or, my spouse is a jerk and that's why I can't be happy. It's like, wow, now that I know that that's the belief, all of a sudden it's not stopping me anymore, because it's those invisible beliefs, the covered up stuff that gets in people's way. When it's uncovered, when it's visible, when you're conscious of it, you can either change it or you can let it be what it is. And now it's just not going to stop you because like, hey, I just know that's a block. I'm just going to move. I'm just going to take action despite whatever that pattern might have been for me in the past. So that's really what diagnosis makes available to all coaches when they do it really well. And look forward to working with you within this area of study, and maybe seeing you in a more advanced training beyond this as well. But if you get the playbook, you have a question, something you're struggling with, of course, great place to start is the GPTs and talk to your tutor. But if something doesn't get resolved or it's still an itch that you want to scratch, I'll be a phone call or an email away. I'm happy to support you in really clarifying this stuff so you can master it as well. And if you got any questions, anything we didn't answer in this overview or the FAQs before you actually get the playbook, just reach out to me and let me know, and I'm happy to answer them.